what's up? It's me, Angie. Welcome back to my channel. I'm with Jordan, and today's a really fun video because we're going to be breaking down ttpd. I am not an expert in Taylor Swift. Though I love Taylor Swift, I'm not a huge expert, but Jordan is. And she knows a lot about the 1975. So our brains are gonna come together and we're gonna talk about all of the Tortured Poets department, every single song, all 31 songs, break them all down song by song. It's gonna be a fun time. So let's get started.
Disclaimer, all of these are super opinion based. There are very few opinions that I would die on a hill for. I love the 1975, but I'm not like a huge, like, you can't call me like a giant stan. I don't know all the details, okay?
Okay.
But as like I've gotten more into ttpd, I've kind of gone back and like listened to their music more and like, you know, did all my little research. So
when I say experts, that's me being funny. And not like, we're not like actually experts. We just love things, and everything is our opinion, and everything is just what we think, and other people could bring up other evidence and say differently. Yes. And that's totally fine. This is just what we think. I'm
open to my mind changing, but it has to be a good argument.
Let's jump right in.
With Fortnight.
Let's talk about Fortnight. This also music video has so much 1975 vibes.
Parallelism is actually insane.
Yeah.
This is where it comes in where I don't know that much about the 1975. I know Matty's alter ego is Truman Black, but even this was something he had posted. But tell me that does not look like the Tortured Poets like room that she walks into. Like, come on now, let's be real. So anyways, I had saw that while I was getting ready today and was like, it's just
more evidence.
There could be a whole like whole video just talking about the parallels between the 1975's work and what she did in this. Yeah, it's just like, it screams it. I think this song here is an interesting album opener. I actually think the Tortured Poets Department song really is more of the true album opener. It feels like an album opener song, and we'll get to that. I think she did this because of the post collab. I think that kind of is partially why she maybe made it first. And it still is a good album opener, and it does give you the vibe of like a little bit about what what you're about to listen to. But I would say the details of this song aren't as specific, and she's not as literal as she is with like other songs on the album.
On Genius, it has a gif of the music video, and it has her chained to the bed, which I think is a big like reference to Fresh Out of the Slammer, about how like she was chained this relationship with Joe, and then unhooks her like handcuffs and then goes to Matty.
This is kind of what we're looking at for the whole album, right? We'll come into these, she'll reference it more and more later, but it kind of starts off, she was locked up, she was melancholy, and life was black and white, and things were just, she felt very trapped, and we're assuming it was in her relationship with Joe, and now things are kind of changing, and she's kind of trying to get out of this situation that she's in. I have a theory, and I'm probably wrong, but I have a theory about this song because I've seen people talk about this. I'm gonna say this is a theory I'm like 80% on. Okay. But we're going into the chorus here, and it talks about, we run into each other sometimes. Now you're in my backyard, turned into good neighbors. This is where I needed to get more into the timeline of things. But part of me thinks, you know, if we zoom out on the grand like lens of Matty and Taylor's relationship, they met, you could even say they met sooner than this, but they met around the 1989 period, and there's photo evidence of this. She was a huge 1975 stan. She would go to their
each other's
and she was a fan of them before she knew Matty. And I mean, we all know Taylor was a Tumblr girl. We all know the 1975 was the Tumblr band. So I think that's kind of how this got kicked off, right? As we'll see kind of later in the album, it talks more about like them meeting this decade ago, and you know, all of that. And so I think over the years, you know, they had distanced, and even as she's in a relationship with Joe, he's not really around a lot. But I think as times were kind of changing, and they were working on, the 1975 was working on their album with Jack, all of a sudden Matty's kind of back in her world again, because we all know how close she is with Jack. And so part of me thinks that's where the good neighbors line comes in. Now we're turned into good neighbors. Now you're in my backyard. You're around more often. I would have to go back and look. I don't know what studio Jack and the 1975 worked on.
Is it now Lady Electric whatever?
I'm not sure if it was, because I know it, like a lot of the time Taylor was staying in London, so this is where like my theory could be falling apart. I don't know if they were geographically now turning into neighbors.
Wasn't there like speculation about how like Matty was gonna be on songs, or they're making songs together for?
Yeah, that's a whole other world. It was actually Midnight's. He confirmed they worked on albums, worked on songs for Midnight's together, and he said
that's interesting.
But she had good reason to not release them.
That's so interesting, because now we know that that album was her
Oh my gosh, and half of it is a kind of leaning towards Matty. I mean, we could get into I could do a whole like thing about all the songs that I think are about Matty, but I mean, we're talking High Infidelity, Glitch, Snow on the Beach, Question, Maroon. I mean, that's just Midnight. That's just Midnight. Don't even get me started on the others. But I think the new now turned into Good Neighbors is like, now you're around. We share the same friends. We run the same circles.
Because it starts off with run into you sometimes. That's why they're like very casual friends, and then now they're like becoming more than just casual friends, like actual friends, and then obviously something more than that.
And then if we're being honest, like the I love you, it's ruining my life. That's why it's that little hook is such a big theme for the album, because like, let's be real, her loving him was ruining her life a year ago, past May. And I think that's why that was kind of what she runs with this is I love you through my life. That's why it's on her dress in the ttpd set.
When she says I love you through my life, like, is that just those short weeks, or is it like throughout her whole life?
Probably
like,
her whole life. I mean, if we look back as we get into like guilty as sin and others, her thoughts of Matty, I think, were interfering with her relationship with Joe. So
also, I just want to say, we're not Joe haters here. At least I'm not. You're not.
I mean, I'm not a Joe lover. We'll put it that way.
I guess
I think he served his purpose for Taylor. I think he was good when he was good.
Taylor Swift has this reputation of being like slamming all her exes and whatever, and she's like,
she didn't really with Joe.
And she didn't with Joe. I think that's important that the fans also don't do that, because it's so easy, especially for fans.
I will in my mind. I'll hate him in my mind. I'm just like, oh, you didn't like appreciate. I mean, I know. You could say the same for Matty, but I don't know
any other guy that did,
Joe as much as I know. There's not as much evidence for me to get to know Joe the way I get to know Matty. But Joe, I just makes me sad that like he just didn't appreciate what he had right in front of him, and it makes you want to shake him.
I know.
So it's like, I hate him in the sense of like, you hate your best friend's ex kind of thing. Where you're like, you know, he's not a terrible person, but you hate him just because he didn't treat your friend right.
But that's why they're obviously not together.
And that's why you can't really attack him, because he's probably a good person. But I'm not necessarily a Joe hater. I'm just not a Joe defender.
Okay.
Kind of what we're getting to here is it's really just talking about how they were only able to really be together for a short amount of time. Kind of this ill-fated.
Yeah, it was like this like for their whole years of friendship, they were like never really able to make it work, and they finally really get together, and it was like this explosive like thing where like he like love bombed her, and then obviously it fell apart, but like it needed to happen. It needed to happen.
I mean, we could touch on the Florida line.
Yeah.
It may come into play with, honestly, when we get to Florida, I genuinely don't know what to say.
I was gonna ask you about
theories out there of like Matty somehow representing Florida in some way.
It says move to Florida, buy the car you want, etc. And we had the song Florida. I remember her, I think it was like an Apple Music something like voice memo thing about the song Florida, where she mentions that Florida is a place where you could go and kind of like after a breakup and like become a different person and escape.
Florida is a song that I wrote with Florence and the Machine, and I think I was coming up with this idea of like, what happens when your life doesn't fit, or your choices you've made catch up to you, and you're surrounded by these harsh consequences and judgment, and circumstances did not lead you to where you thought you would be, and you just want to escape from everything you've ever known. Is there a place you could go? I'm always watching like Dateline. People, have these crimes that they commit. Where do they immediately skip town and go to? That they go to Florida. They like try to reinvent themselves, have a new identity, blend in. And I think when you go through a heartbreak, there's a part of you that thinks, I want a new name. I want a new life. I don't want anyone to know where I've been or know me at all. And so that was kind of that was the jumping off point behind where would you go to reinvent yourself and blend in.
And so I'm wondering if like she's saying here like,
let's run away.
Yeah. Like,
I think for some reason us Floridians don't get it.
Yeah, we live in Florida.
So we don't get why you would want to run away to here.
Actually, Destin of all places, but
yeah, don't really get that. But somehow there was some sort of connection to Florida that she.
I also think of when I think of Florida, I also think of like Lana Del Rey, like 40 kilos. And
I mean,
you know what I mean?
Lana
So maybe...
Del Rey's like original aesthetic. I don't want to be too problematic, but it was very like American white trash trailer kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that was her like original aesthetic. And what state encompasses that the best? Let's be real here. Florida.
We know that Taylor loves Lana, obviously. So I wonder if she got the idea from
like,
Lana.
yeah.
I don't know. Just a thought. Anyways,
yeah.
Song 2 is, of course, the title track.
What I believe is like the true tortured poet, like the true opener.
Yeah, this is so obviously about Matty too, because she talks about how he's a tortured.
I just want to fight somebody who, like, please come try to fight me if you think this is about Joe. I'm so sorry.
A lot of people before the album came out thought this would be about Joe.
I thought the whole album was going to be about Joe.
Yeah,
I was ready.
Yeah.
I was ready because I resonate a lot with my past relationship. I resonate with her with Joe a lot as the leak happened, and the rumors were starting to come out of like on Twitter, like, oh, we're hearing this is like way more about Matty than you thought, and way more about the fans than we thought, and like there's nothing about Joe. That was when things started to kind of change for me.
Because before the album came out, we kept on hearing about how Joe had the group chat called the Tortured Man Club, and that's what people linked this song to in the album too. Obviously, we know now that it's clearly about Matty, at least that's our opinion. So
I'm gonna die on the hill that this song at least is about him. But there recently came out, I don't think it was Paul Mescal, I want to say it was the other person that was in that tortured group chat, came out and was like, it lasted like 2 texts. Yeah, I mean, we can just start with like, you left your typewriter at my apartment, straight from the tortured poets department.
We would see him leaving her apartment with a bag that's clearly full. I think it's clearly full.
The infamous, put on the screen here, Louis Vuitton bag.
With a typewriter in it.
It possibly was, for sure.
Possibly.
It's kind of funny because we thought Torture Poets Department was going to be this serious thing of like, you're in this torture poets department and we're tortured together, blah blah blah, but she out of the bat like is like, this is actually a joke, who do you think you are, kind of thing.
We're 2 modern idiots.
I
love that about Taylor, because Matty's very much like that,
takes himself very seriously,
and she's just like not like that at all.
Insert clip here if you feel like it. The I want to say it was Genius, I can't remember who he was doing the interview with, where he goes on and on about his love for typewriters.
It's not that there's any kind of like romance to having a notebook, but I really like typewriters as well. I don't have one with me because that is really impractical. And the thing is with typewriters and writing on with pen to paper, there's a kind of an element of like commitment that goes with the ceremony of it. Therefore it requires you to concentrate a bit better. So I think it's important to have a book. So it's mainly like stories that I write about my dreams of being in love with other pop stars.
We go into Tattooed Golden Retriever. Now, 1975 fans will tell you, like, Matty is really this golden retriever. He's not, he has a persona that he puts on stage. He has this persona that he puts on with his art, and he actually has, like, an issue with sincerity. He struggles with, like, how am I going to be sincere in my art? Like, I've got this persona. 1975 fans don't come for me, don't know it all, but he has, like, sincerity is scary is something that he had said. I want to, is there an album title that's
it's a song.
They have a song called Sincerity is Scary from
A Brief Inquiry into Relationships.
If you listen to actually the chicken shop date, is how you call it, with Amelia, he talks about like how one of his boldest lines is, I'm in love with you, and she's like, what do you mean, that's like one of your favorite lines right now? He's like, yeah, because I'm being forthright.
My favorite lyric at the moment is, I'm in love with you.
Aw, thanks.
No, I wasn't talking to you, I'm just saying...
That's your favourite lyric you've ever written, I'm in love with you?
I'm just trying to be, like, earnest and open, and you just said that my lyrics are pretentious.
I'm just saying, out of all the lyrics to pick, you've chosen I'm in love with you, which anyone could say, or any people do say that all the time.
Exactly.
Going back to Tattooed Golden Retriever, they'll tell you that's really is kind of his personality, so...
I also want to mention that in... I forget what song else. Maybe it's The Smallest I Never Lived. She mentioned that he like walks out with his tail between his legs. Again, referencing.
Yeah, that was in the Black Dog. Tail between your legs, you're leaving.
Yes, yeah. So again, another link between the two songs mentioning dog.
Yeah, well, and the whole Black Dog thing of they got the wrong pub. It's not the one in London. It is in, I want to say it was Ireland. It's because she says bar called the Black Dog. The one in London is a pub. There's actually a Black Dog bar in and I should have looked this up before. I want to say somewhere within 1975 was touring around this time. She didn't record this song pre breakup with Matty. She did record this post breakup with Matty. It's a bar in Ireland when the 1975 was playing. One of my favorite lines I think people don't talk about enough is "Who's gonna troll you?" Because Matty's a troll.
Yeah.
Like,
I also want to mention the lines that talk about like
yeah, Lucy.
Yeah.
So the bridge goes, "Sometimes I wonder if you're gonna screw this up with me, but you told Lucy you'd kill yourself if I ever leave."
And I had said that to Jack about you, so I felt seen about how they're like their
worlds are very intertwined.
Yeah, like very the same. Like, would you say twin flame?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you go deep into it, I think they are somewhat of a twin flame. But regardless, their worlds are very similar.
Them saying the same thing about each other, different people, I think shows like how crazy they both are.
Thoughts like are possibly that this was something he said around like Nashville time, because that was when he first came back, or was first seen on Eras Tour. He came straight from like Manila, and this was when all the rumors were breaking. And he the first night in Nashville was seen in the tent with Boy Genius, and then the second and third nights in Nashville he actually performed with them on stage. It's just interesting. You can tell they have a lot of mutual friends, and that like one of my favorite lines, and I love the way she sings it, is "Everyone we know understands why it's meant to be." And that like really got me when I first heard it, because that really is what I thought about them when I heard this. I was like, it makes sense. Every one of their friends is probably like, wow, we get it now, Taylor. And so it sucks of obviously of how things ended up, but I love that. And then we get to the big banger of a line about "dinner you take my ring off my middle finger and put it on the one people put weddings on," or wedding rings on. And that's the closest I've come to my heart exploding, which is tragic.
Bombing.
Yes.
I think he wasn't sincere in that.
But there's interviews showing Matty really does desire marriage and kids. That's like a really, like, he actually really, really wants that. I think he saw it with Taylor and wanted it with Taylor, but did put it in front of her face a little bit too much. Too early.
And because he also knew that Taylor wants that badly too. And
I think he went a little too tortured romantic man. And just played it up. No, I don't think he was insincere, but I think it was just too much too soon. Very sad to think like that's the closest she's come to her heart exploding after a 6-year relationship. We
also need to talk about whenever like they say "I love you" to each other on this during Cardigan Universe.
So that was National Night 1. So he in Manila, if you go back to the videos, he was so giddy. Matty is somebody who Taylor, she has her performance when she's on stage. She has like, this is the persona I'm in during this song, and this is, or even like during August, this is the zone I'm in. During All Too Well, this is the zone I'm in. And so she's like performing almost as like a play, as you know, this is her performance. Matty is like insanely transparent. The show changes based on what he's feeling. The set list changes based on what he wants to play that night.
I didn't know. That's really cool.
Everything is completely like on a whim, honestly, of his mood. He has other pieces to it. This is where like me not being a huge 1995 fan comes into not knowing all the details. So in Manila, this man was acting up. He was saying weird things before songs, and we could get, that's a whole other video, but he was saying things about songs that now probably have linked to Taylor, and that is when he spoke into the camera, because the 1975 part of their shows, they do have like cameramen going around, and that's when he spoke the "I love you, this one's about you, I love you, you know who you are."
What song was that?
He did it during "About You."
Oh, okay, I know that
Do you think that I've forgotten "About You"? And then the shocker of all shockers that still all of us, even myself, are befuddled with, is her doing it during Cardigan on National Night 1. That was just
I remember when the album first came out, and I was in disbelief that this album was about Matty, and we were talking about it, and you mentioned how Cardigan is about Matty, perhaps, and then and the song Peter, and then her saying that during the song on stage,
and how it all kind of comes together.
How it comes together.
Going to the timeline of Matty and Taylor. February of 2020 was this award show called the NMEs, and it's in London. And Taylor skipped the Grammys that year to go to the NMEs, and it's a very like what do you call it? Like, it's not your typical award show. It's a little bit more like out of the box. It's a little bit like, you know, not as, it's not as formal of a situation.
Yeah.
The 1975 was there that night performing. Taylor's talking to, I believe, Biba Doobie and another person. And they're whispering to each other, and they warn her he's about to come up, and he like gets her and is like, hey, and she goes, hey, and so it's our first time seeing each other in many years.
I didn't know this.
This time he's dating, I believe this is the timeline, he's dating FKA Twigs. They were very, very serious, like probably going to get engaged, like very, very serious. So this is February 2020. She sees Matty for the first time. She, you know, is at this award show. She's had this thing with him forever, right? But she's with Joe, he's with FKA. That's that. But then what happens in March 2020? We all know.
Pandemic.
COVID.
Yeah.
And what did she say? She said she started working on folklore pretty much as soon as the pandemic hit. So what happened right before the pandemic hit? She saw Matty for the first time in years and was reunited.
Oh my god.
What is one of the top songs on folklore? Cardigan. Moving on to My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys. I was actually listening to this on my way over because on Twitter today I heard some people being like, well, is this actually about Joe? And I was thinking about it. Because we're saying this song, she's talking about, this is one that is also a little bit less direct of a song, talking about, you know, feeling played with and used, basically.
And obviously the beginning of the song is like, oh, here we go again, voices in your head, call the rain and the lyrics.
But, and that could be, I mean, she talks about Joe a lot with the negative blue feelings, but then again in Tortured Poets Department, the track, she says certain things about mood, like self-sabotage mode. I think both of these men are tortured men. But then we get into the verse, and this is where I think it still kind of plays in with Matty of, there was a litany of reasons why we could have played for keeps this time. And I mean, if you think about Joe, possibly they were on and off, so possibly they could have been wanting to play this time. And then we go into, I'll tell you that he runs because he loves me. And so if we're looking at the end of her relationship with Matty, based on other songs moving forward, it looks like he ran because he was afraid of all that was going on. And so she goes, left all these broken parts, told me I'm better off. So he thought she was better off without him leaving her behind. It is weird to think, like, she's saying best friend, and he, like, I felt more when we played pretend. And I don't think she would have said played pretend with Joe.
I agree.
They played for real. I think he self-sabotaged it, and I think he's very similar to Joe in some of the moodiness and cloudiness that these boys have. I think there's a lot of parallels with these two men, which is why I think Travis is such a like welcomed change for her. This could bring us into the whole Speak Up Now campaign that was started in May when they started dating, where people who did not like the idea of Matty and Taylor together dug as deep as they could. I could go into a whole rant about how, like, majority of those are just false lies and things that were kind of taken out of context. The nature of Matty is controversial. That's what he is. That's his, like, art. He's not this evil person I was kind of put in. I don't think he was too bad for Taylor. I don't think Taylor went against any sort of morals by dating him.
And I think that's where the whole, like, that's where the parasocial relationship comes in, where people, and also, like, the whole, like, putting artists or people you love on this throne. It's like, she's not this, like, perfect person.
It was just insane that people thought they could, like, control who she dated. And I think Matty couldn't take it. I mean, rightfully so. I thought maybe he might. The campaign that people decided they could, you know, it was their choice of who Taylor could decide. And I mean, some people are going as far as to saying she should be in a conservatorship because of this all. Bonkers.
We obviously don't know why they broke up or how that happened, but you mentioned that.
Lots of hints in this album.
But I think the way they broke up was that he ghosted her because of the lyric.
They just ghosted you too.
Like, you know how it feels. Now.
There's a possibility she's protecting him a little here with exactly what went down. And we can get into that with Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. I just think some of the lyrics are a little too scathing for somebody who just ghosted. So,
okay, we'll go to the next song though.
Down Bad. The banger that is Down Bad.
So good. I love this song.
I know. So my favorite thing about this song, jumping in really quick, is the whole celestial alien
Yeah.
situation,
Which I didn't get at first until she put it on tour. I was like,
if you go back into like a lot of Taylor's discography and where she mentions Matty, she uses celestial references a lot, and so this is basically the culmination of it all.
Yeah.
She uses, and you could go back and I could tell you like Half Moon Eyes and Meteor Strike, everything second best after that, Meteor Strike.
What the fuck? Wait, is that, what song is that from?
Question. Even if to High Infidelity, do I really have to chart the constellations in his eyes?
Anyway, Down by
She's really beat me up. We love the alien aesthetic.
Obviously a breakup song, right?
Yes. Down bad, crying at the gym. And I think the teenage petulance line is really cool because she's like, everything comes out like I'm just a brat. I'm crying and I'm like, I want what I want. But daddy, I love him. Like everything's coming out like that. And she's just like throwing a fit.
Yeah.
She's just pissed. She can't have what she wants.
And she's so dramatic, like, I just might die, it would make no difference. Like, very much teenage, angsty, like.
Yep.
I never understood what
I don't know the Waking Up in Blood line. I know, I really don't know. It says on Genius it could be
from the experiments. From the experiments. And
being experimented on by the alien spaceship. Possibly Waking Up in Blood, just coming back, like she was beamed up and now she's beamed back down and she's waking up and she's in blood because she went through something traumatic up there. But I think the idea of this is, in this relationship that is in Down Bad, she was taken into this other world. She feels like she was brought up into this other world that was nothing like anything she'd ever had before, and now that it's ended, she was just thrown back onto Earth into the same place she was before, and she's like, but I miss that magic, I miss that.
Especially coming out from a 6-year relationship where it was very like not as like big and magical.
Not
like
magical,
she likens being in a relationship with Matty as if she was beamed up into this like alien world.
This totally other world.
And then she like kind of gets splat into reality again after they break up, and it's like even harder of a fall, even harder of a breakup. That's why she's so down bad, because it was so magical and so short-lived.
And one thing I really love too, the verse and the second verse, the line, they'll say I'm nuts if I talk about the existence of you.
Yeah.
It's really, people are like, oh, Taylor, you're crazy for dating Matty, why are you talking about him? But it's also people who talk about alien encounters. They're like, you're nuts. The fort line is very interesting. So she goes, I'll build you a fort on some planet where they can all understand it in the bridge. I'll build you a fort on some planet. So something, and I wish I had gotten more educated on this before I came in. But Matty's thing is forts. He has videos of him like playing in forts, and his whole thing with his fan base is like, he thinks like forts are like their safe place for them to all be in, and like the fort is partially what the fan base calls themselves.
Oh, I'm gonna get Fortnite too.
Well, yeah, that's true. I don't know the exact link, but that could be.
Yeah.
So Fort on some planet, that is really like a, oh my god, it's freaking about Matty line, because his thing is forts.
I like how in the song it talks about how dare you think it's romantic leaving me safe and stranded. Obviously is a line related to New Romantics. Please take my hand, leave me stranded, be so romantic.
Linking into him having ghosted her, he just was like,
oh,
I brought you into this amazing world. It was great for such a short amount of time. Boom, you're brought back to Earth. I'm leaving without you. I'm stranding you, leaving you stranded. And he thinks he's doing what's right for her. And so he thinks it's romantic.
Which is, yes, and which is also very just like tortured, like I'm gonna let you go, let you go type of dramatic.
And then
bullshit.
before we close this song out, like I lost my twin, and that goes into if you believe in twin flames or look up at what it's about. I know Taylor, this is something I think she does have like knowledge in and might believe in, because twin flame brews paint you blue. We know she's really into astrology and numerology and all those things. So I just think it's really interesting that, like I lost my twin. They're such similar people when you really look at the grand scheme of things, and it's like she just lost him.
And then of course she says we met the ship, as in the spaceship, and then that's kind of the end of the song.
And I think this song was probably written around the time that the Speak Up Now was going out, because she is in this like bratty teenage, like, fuck it if I can't have him, like, why are they doing this to me?
And it's again where her fame comes in that ruins her relationships. Whereas it's been a thing that her whole life with all of her relationships. I think even starting with like even Jake Gyllenhaal, and then obviously Joe, and then Matty. She talks a lot about it on the Lover album, but like, and she has a lot of anxiety about her fame and how she feels like no one could really fit into her life because of how famous she is and all that.
But Daddy, I Love Him is a big piece of that too.
Okay, next up, So Long London. I think this is probably. Oh, this is
100% Joe.
Yeah, but do you think this is another song? I think this is probably the only song on this album. Or do you think another one is about?
How Did It End? So that's on the
that
anthology.
Could also be about
that one
Joe.
is the other one that is possibly
about Joe.
More Joe-ish.
Yeah.
But
I think the only two real breakup songs we have about Joe is this song and then
You're
the
Losing
single.
Me.
Yeah, You're Losing Me.
Yeah. So this song, people try to say it's not a good track 5. I think it's a great track 5.
Oh yeah.
I think it's heart-wrenching.
Yeah, definitely about Joe.
I think this song is important to the album to give us an idea of where Taylor was at as she was ending the relationship with Joe, how it ended, her feelings of that, and why it was so easy for her to jump in quickly with Matty. I think this kind of sets the stage.
Yeah.
A lot of women especially, but anyone, a lot of times when you're in long-term relationships, you mourn it before you're fully out.
Yes.
And you are, by the time you're out, you're like, I'm ready. Like, I've mourned this. I'm not really heartbroken anymore because I slowly mourned it as it was dying.
And I think we also saw that a lot in Midnights, whereas things were wrapped up as if they were like fine and dandy, but when we looked deep into it, it was definitely her realizing that the relationship was over and her accepting that, and then we get So Long London, which I think is a true like breakup song, like we are really over.
And You're Losing Me,
And You're
which
Losing Me.
actually You're Losing Me was written in 2021, so it wasn't even fully up.
Yeah, you're right, because they stayed together after that for like
up until
years.
I think they possibly, and we'll talk if you actually want to get into this, Splintered in Winter. I think they possibly broke up towards the end of 2022, right shortly after Midnights came out. I mean, she went to the 1975 show in January of 2023. I think that was around her and Matty reconnecting situation. I think her and Joe splintered back in shortly after Midnights came out. And she was just trying to hold it together PR-wise. This song is the one I relate to most about in my past life. I relate more to her situation with Joe and just like being in a long-term relationship that's not serving you and you stay way past the time that it serves you. And it just really gives you this view. He was drifting away. She was pulling him back. She was carrying all the weight of the relationship. Something about this song that really gave me a lot of insight into their relationship was the second verse. I didn't opt in to be Your Odd Man Out. I founded the club she's heard great things about. You can go into a whole thing about that. I left all I knew, you left me at the house by the heath. This line really tells a lot to me. We know like she gave up, she loves LA and New York and all those things, and I think primarily during the pandemic she up and moved to London. We don't know a lot about her during this time or really but it seems like somehow he left her at home, and I don't know how you could leave the Taylor Swift at home to go do God knows what could be better than hanging out with the Taylor Swift.
Wasn't he filming during the
I mean, what job did he have? Tell me, I don't know. I stopped CPR after all it's no use. That links back to You're Losing Me with the heartbeats.
I mean, this is pretty like probably one of the most blatant songs about whoever it's about.
And then the most personally heart-wrenching line to me was, I'm pissed off you let me give you all that youth for free.
I know.
I think about that line daily. Not gonna lie. Think about that line daily. It is so heart-wrenching to think of yourself as, you know, giving away the best years of your 20s, and then all of a sudden you wake up and you're in your 30s and you're alone.
Yeah, and she has that, I think it's a Vogue or some sort of article where she talks
Time
about,
Person article.
Yeah, where she talks about how she can't get that time back. She's locked away basically, obviously, fresh out the summer. And I think for a lot of women, 30 feels like almost a death. We hear in this song how she says like, my white knuckle dying grip. Like she was holding so tight on this relationship, trying to make it work, but he wasn't, unfortunately.
I think this song is really truly tragic with that. It gives us so much insight into their breakup and her anger towards it.
Definitely feel like there's an anger in this song, but the ending says, we had a good run.
Oof, this line really gets me of we had a good run, a moment of warm sun, but you're not the one. I've like teared up many times before that lyric.
This to me doesn't feel as angry. It feels
It's accepting for sure by the end of it.
Yeah.
But it's funny because if you look at the lyric directly before that, I'm mad as hell because I love this.
Yeah,
lyric.
I know. Yeah.
And she goes, had a good run, a moment of warm sun, but I'm not the one.
Yeah.
So it's not even her saying, you're not my one. She's saying, I'm not your one. Which is also heartbreaking. Because you're accepting that, like, not only are you thinking about yourself, like, oh, you're not my one, you're thinking about him. You're like, I'm not your one. Like, so long, you'll find yours. You'll find someone. So it's almost accepting in the sense of, like, accepting that he's going to find someone one day, too. And that you're okay with that. Which is similar to Happiness, the song from Evermore.
2 graves, 1 gun.
That is a line that I would love to hear in the comments down below, your thoughts of exactly what that all means.
Yeah, I think it reminds me of Olivia Rodrigo, which I don't want to compare the two because I know how that gets heated between everyone. But it reminds me of Olivia Rodrigo and how she said, like, what does she say? 2 hearts, 2 hands bloody. I'll put it on the screen. I can't remember the lyrics right now. But it just makes me think, like, they were both kind of away at fault.
But almost it's opposite because it's saying 2 graves, 1 gun.
Oh, you're
so
right.
Only one person was the fault, which is why I'm confused a little of, like, you know, is she blaming herself for being the one that ends it? I think she did. I think she was the one who finally.
I think she's the one that pulled up. Yeah, me too.
And that's why she's also saying, like, you said I threw it all away, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Next song, But Daddy I Love Him. I love this song. It's so fun. Obviously, this song is about the fans that were unhappy that we're together.
This song has a lot of layers, which is why I think it's the longest song on the album. It starts out, though, which I almost referenced this when we were talking earlier. The too high of horse for a simple girl to rise above it is just such a great way of saying, like, you're putting me on this pedestal to be this perfect person and I'm just a simple girl. And so that's in reference to the Speak Up Now movement. They slammed the door on my whole world, the one thing I wanted. They being those criticizing her and her relationship with Matty, because at that time I truly think she thought this is it. This is the one thing I've wanted. I've waited 10 years for this. It's finally all culminating into this. My life finally makes sense, as what she said in her speech. And so I think she really thought, and she's like, they slammed the door, they did this to me. Part of this could have been written pre, him, or most of it could have been written pre the breakup of them and the dissolving of them. Great,
I know he's crazy, he's the one I want, clearly referencing the other song on the album that we already talked about. I can't remember the name of it already. How they're both crazy, whatever. I know things, but, like, I'm not good at taking specifics.
Growing up precocious is a really interesting line because that's this first of 2 times she uses precocious in the album. And it means kind of like sheltered and
interesting. I actually didn't know that.
Like naive. And so she was saying sometimes growing up sheltered means you didn't grow up and so you didn't learn. He was chaos, he was revelry. Love that. Bedroom eyes. She loves to talk about Matty's eyes, half moon eyes. Constellations in his eyes. The line about the elders had convened down at the city hall really just puts the image of Speak Up Now in my head, of this letter written of, like, we decided this is
we don't want this, you guys have to break up. And then obviously the pre-chorus saying stay away from her, the saboteurs protested too much, they were too much,
and put up the meme, the stay away from her meme, into the Fortnight music video. She has the stay away from her tattoo on her face.
Wait, I didn't realize it said that.
It says, like, stay away from her, stay away.
What?
It might just say stay away.
Oh my god, I didn't even realize. I thought it was just his I thought it was just posted.
And
so obviously the whole But That I Love Him is like a metaphor, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word. For
it goes back to the teenage petulance of it all.
Yeah.
Post-chorus, where she really goes at it to the people she was pissed off at in May and June, and she really gets into it. And I think the people who this message was for probably didn't hear it and was in denial that it was about them, I'm sure.
It's so good. She's so fucking, like, straightforward. She's like,
I'll tell you something about my good name. It's mine alone to disgrace.
I don't want to hear anyone who's bitching and moaned, and, like, she was bad.
It's the best way to say it. She was like, leave me the hell alone. I get to choose. If I want to run my name into the ground, I'm running into the ground because it's mine to choose to do that. You don't get to tell me. And I just don't know how anybody thought it was their place to tell her what to do.
I think because Taylor Swift has such a connection with her fans, I think that's probably why. I mean,
it's true.
Obviously why they feel the way
she's partially fed the beast in some senses, for sure.
Yeah. Genius has this annotated talking about the Little Mermaid and how her voice was gone.
And that's where the line, "But Daddy, I Love Him" comes from. It's from that movie.
Yeah.
Choices were being taken away from her. For the Little Mermaid, you know, her choices were being taken away, and she's like, no, but I love him, like, I want to be able to make my own decisions, and you think you know what's best for me, but you don't. And so that's the father-daughter relationship that she's, like, akin to here, liking it too. Then we get into the bridge, iconic, God save the most judgmental creep. She's like, God save the most judgmental creep. So, I mean, it just goes, she's going, and this is just insane to me, is they think they can change the beat of my heart when he touches me and counteract the chemistry. She's like, you think you know what he does to me. You think it's just a fling. You think it's just a rebound. Like, you think you can change how I feel about him. And, like, you don't even get it.
And that's the thing, is that Swifties think they know everything. They think they know it all. But Taylor, as much as Taylor Swift is very much an open book, she is also very private. Like, there's so much we don't actually know.
I was a big mailer truther. I thought that honestly, and I thought that they didn't break up once the breakup articles came out. I thought they were just letting things die down for a little bit, and we're going to eventually, like, come back. But another line I just love here, she just has so many ways of saying, like, you think you know what's best for me and you don't.
She's so good.
If all you want is gray for me, then it's just white noise. If you just want if you want blandness for my life, then why? It's just white noise. I don't need to hear it. Then the controversial third verse, where we don't know, is she talking about Matty? Is she talking about Travis? I think it could have initially been about Matty, but she herself transformed it to be more of a Travis line of, like, now even my daddy just loves him. Like, now I'm with someone who my dad loves. We came back when the heat died down, came to my parents. That is where it's, like, still linking to Matty. So the third verse is kind of more up to interpretation.
When with the song, I didn't really understand what this part really was about.
I think if you take the Travis of it all, take her relationship out, we're just looking at this song as a story. What it is supposed to say is, everything was awful, but we came back to my parents when the heat died down. They came around. All the wine moms are still kind of being a little bitchy about it, but fuck them. Yeah, so and the storyline, even if we're not putting names to it, just the hymn of this song is what that is. However, now it can kind of be looked at a little bit different. I think if we're talking about it being switching from Matty to Travis, I think the switch is all the wine moms are still holding out, but fuck them, it's over.
Yeah, that's right.
Boom. Then this final chorus possibly could be, now we're, you know, transitioning into Travis. My daddy even loves him. I'm his lady. Lady is something I think more so would come out of Travis's mouth.
And then when it says, no, you can't come to the wedding, makes you, think about Jack Antonoff's wedding and about how people were pissed that so many fans showed up to it. Again, I think talking about the fans and how she's like, I love my fans, but, like, you guys, this is too much.
Yeah, that's true. No, you can't come to the wedding is also very metaphorical or, like, non-literal.
Yeah.
Fresh out the slammer. We'll start to go through quicker.
Yeah, quicker.
Okay, fresh out the slammer. This one is wild.
Pretty clear who it's about.
Talks about, though, the beginning gives us more insight into Joe. I mean, gray and blue, fights in tunnels, handcuffed to the spell I was under for just 1 hour of sunshine. To think, like, you put in so much hard work and you, like, kept just that little bit of sunshine came from him, and it's just so sad. And then we get this scathing lines of years of labor, locks, and ceilings in the shade of how he was feeling. Like, the fact that the Taylor Swift could feel this way is part of my distaste for Joe. Is like that she's made it obvious who is she running to this whole time. She's been thinking about with Guilty as Sin, and it's hard. This album is very, like, I thought initially it was a little bit more in order of how things went down, but it's very much so out of order.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, we get towards the second verse and she's running to Matty, and then we get into the big thing that everybody refers back to that really just, like, opens up a whole entire can of worms of Taylor's past discography. Swirled you into all of my poems. Let's be real here.
About
all the past work that she's done with him.
or that we thought it was about something else. I think we,
and even
looking
songs
back
that were
now,
unreleased, but yeah.
To the house where you still wait up and the porch light gleams, I think makes you think of, Cardigan. Now you're standing in my front porch light, I know you come back to me.
Yep, and there's also another line, I want to say it was probably Betty, where they also, because Cardigan and Betty are linked, there's another line where she brings up porch light. Will you kiss me on the porch in front of all your stupid friends? So she mentions porch, she brings wait for the porch light gleams and fresh out the slammer. Cardigan, you'll be standing in my front porch light. And interesting enough, the 1975 set, this is more of like a weird parallel, I don't know if it's on purpose, but their set is a house, and the front porch is like where she entered in, and where like the characters of the enter through is the porch.
Yeah, the song is just really about fresh at the slammer, meaning her relationship with Joe. She's fresh out and goes straight to Matty. Moving on to song 8, Florida. We relate to this song very much because we live in Florida. We don't live in Destin, but you know.
This song is really, I mean, I don't have much to say about it other than what we've said in the beginning. I think she presented the idea to Florence. We know she wrote this while she was still with Matty. Photo of her, Florence and Matty together. So.
Oh yeah, because there's her wearing that cute little outfit going into, I think, Electric BZ Studios, and then in that little clip of her and Florence recording, she's wearing that same outfit.
Yeah, and that was during the Matty timeline, and there's photos of them together. So we know this was written during Matty. This was very much like, I just want to run away, and I think this was a really impersonal way of saying it. She didn't have to get too deep, and this was more of a like metaphorical, not as diaristic of a song, really.
Yeah, well, I think also, I know we said it before that we think that she said that it was about like a breakup and how she wants to like run away and like start new. If you're mentioning how like it was written while they're still together, it could be that she wants to leave. Like she says, the creaks of the city is driving me crazy. It could be like she wants to just leave all the noise of the city, all the noise of the people bashing on their relationship, and just
run away with him.
And she mentions drugs. We know that Matty likes drugs.
Did like it, is still like,
and so Florida's one hell of a drug. Let's go there. We could be together there, type of thing.
I'd love to know more people's thoughts on the line of, did you know your home's really only a town you're just a guest in, a town you'll get arrested in? That's one I haven't really worked out of, like, if it has really any main specific meeting. But basically just saying you don't belong where you thought you belonged. Let's run away. The only other important or interesting thing here is the link of the shitstorm back in Texas.
I was gonna say, what is that about?
She goes, the smoke cloud billows out his mouth like a 6-lane Texas highway in I Can Fix Him, no really I Can't. So she does mention Texas in that song as well.
That's a little link there.
If you listen to how many beats there are, there's too many in my opinion. There should only be 5, but there's 7, and it's Florida. You'll never be able to listen to the song again without thinking that.
Okay. This is my
favorite song. This is my favorite song on the album.
Same.
Definitely is in my top 10 of all time Taylor Swift songs.
First of all, she opens with a song with talking about Downtown Lights, which is a song, right? Yeah, a song by the Blue Nile, which Matty Healy
sampled in.
Yeah, he sampled a song.
You know, that is linked to him. I did see some people somehow linking it to Harry Styles. He like put this song in one of his playlists or something.
I have a question. What do you think I am allowed to cry means?
She's saying she feels guilty, so is she allowed to also be sad about it?
Because she's like thinking about
I'm
him
guilty too.
Yeah, because she's
So she's like, am I allowed to feel bad about this? Because I'm also not really being faithful.
Yeah.
He sent her this song, The Blue Nile. And these are just briefly some of the lyrics we've gotten here. We've got, how do I know you feel it? How do I know it's true? Sometimes I walk away when all I really want to do is love and hold you right.
He sent her this song, obviously.
Yeah, while she was with Joe. Nobody loves you this way. Tonight and every night, let's go walking down this empty street. Wrong or right, be at my side. So, and as you had discussed, talking about how this is a song that Matty has a history with, he, you know, sampled this in some of his music and his work before. This cage was once just fine. We're talking about cages again, locked up. She thought, you know, this was fine with Joe, but I dream of cracking these locks, throwing my life to the wolves or the ocean rocks.
It definitely sounds like she's thinking about him and like,
well, we all know this is a masturbation song. This is what this is. I don't know if you can say the M word on your channel. It's actually
my sheets of blaze,
very explicit.
Building up like waves.
One thing I don't think people hear talking about. She goes, these fatal fantasies giving way to labored breath.
Yeah.
Let's think about labored breath for a minute. You're feeling yourself. You're getting to the climax there.
Oh yeah. How she's with Joe and thinking about Matty, mentally not in that relationship with Joe, like mentally there anymore, but still with him physically, but she's already checked out at that point, and thinking about Matty, but she's not cheating because she's like, how can I be guilty, like, if we never even really touched?
There's
it's
no
only
such
my
thing
mind.
as bad thoughts.
Yes,
that's what they say.
Yeah.
Whoever told her that.
Yeah.
And then really interesting is in this bridge, we talk about, she says, if long-suffering propriety is what they want from me, long-suffering propriety is what they want from me, that kind of harkens back to, but daddy, I love him. If you want, if all you want is gray for me. And then, they don't know how you've haunted me so stunningly. I knew you'd haunt all of my what-ifs. From Cardigan. He's haunted her all these years, and that's been apparent in her music. I think another interesting thing that I go back and forth on here is how I long for our trysts. Trysts are like secret rendezvous. And she says, though, like, things we never did, messy top-left kiss. So are the trysts something they never did, or were they something they did? Did they have these secret rendezvous?
I also love that she does her classic Taylor Swift thing where she ends the song the way she started it. Up next.
Now we're really speeding through it.
Yeah. Who's Afraid of Little Old Me? I fucking love this song too. Oh, this song's so fucking good because she's such a bad bitch.
I mean, it's so hard to speak for the song because it really speaks for itself.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does. It goes into, I mean, yes, I think this was sparked from her frustration with the public's, you know, perception and reaction to her with Matty. But I think it really was just a culmination at that point of like, okay, I'm done. Like, she was just raging.
Yeah.
And this is a self-written song, I believe, by herself on the piano at night. So we know this is like really, truly raw.
I also think it's a little bit about her and Kanye and that whole drama, because she was such a kind of like a little girl that could be like picked on, I guess. I think it's probably why Kanye
I think it's not
her.
even just specifically Kanye. I think she's saying in the past in general, I was this person that kind of got picked on. And
like she says, I was tame, I was gentle till the circus life made me mean. Like the past dramas that she's been in, because she's always been so polarizing in the media. Yeah, she's kind of just like, well, who's Afraid of Little Old Me? Like, I'm just a little girl. Like, well, you should be, because clearly we've seen what a bad bitch she is as she's grown up, and how like she says, like, I'm tired of always rising from the ashes.
Mending all
my
her
ashes. People have always thought of her as like this small little woman, but like time and time again she's always like proven that she is like could rise up and a bad bitch.
And honestly, such a devastating lyric of "Don't you worry, folks, we took out all her teeth."
Yes,
of kind of almost the people on her team in a way, like have been, not just her team, but you know, they're like, she can't do anything, we've taken her teeth away, because so many times she's not been allowed to say what she really wants because of retribution.
Yeah, and also like with her record label.
I love that she kind of mocks herself with the putting narcotics in all of my songs. I'll sue you if you step on my lawn. Kind of mocking like what the media says about her, being like, haha, you know, not necessarily that she's going to sue you, or not necessarily she puts narcotics in her songs. So she's kind of playing up at what people talk about her.
I think that line also, I don't know, maybe it could be a direct reference to her and Olivia, and how it's speculated that Taylor sued Olivia.
Well, yeah, I think it's definitely a link there. She's kind of joking, because I think it's definitely come out now, like, there wasn't actually any sort of suing. One line that really gets me is, I want to snarl and show you how disturbed this has made me. And I think that is a direct response and referral to the Speak Up Now movement and the overall online perception and nasty stuff that was being said about her during this time. I think and I always wondered when this was going on, I'm like, what does Taylor think? And she tells us, I want to snarl and show you how disturbed it made her. And I mean, it was disturbing. That's Who's Afraid of a Little Old Me. Now we're kind of going a little too quick.
Are we?
I mean, we spoke so much about a lot of the stuff in the beginning that it speaks for some of the songs.
Yeah, I think also these couple songs are pretty like blatant about what they're about, whereas maybe like like Torture Fortnight maybe is a little bit more like, you know,
and those are more setting the scene for the album, and now we're kind of getting like the meat and bones of like, you said, like, things are a little bit more literal,
obvious.
I can fix them. This is another one that's not as straightforward, though.
You think so? I was gonna say, I think it is, because she's like, I want to fix them, but I can't.
Isn't I mean, it's straightforward about who it's about. When these song titles were first released,
I know.
And you know, I'm in the camp, I follow a lot of people who are Taylor/1975 fans, people who are a fan of them being together, people who don't villainize him. A lot of 1975 fans are like Matty lovers, like, you know, really, really get him and understand him and love him. These titles came out, because everyone was under the assumption this is mostly going to be Joe.
Yeah.
And we were all joking about how so many of these songs, but Daddy, I love him, I can fix him, no really can't. We were joking about like how this sounds so Maddie.
Really?
And we're just like that. I mean, literally you put I can fix him, no really I can't, and then put Maddie next to each other. It's just like that's who
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's so vindicating and funny.
It's so funny because you think like that because you're a fan of 1975 and Taylor Swift, whereas I'm not very much of a fan of 1975, so when I heard this I was so confused about what the hell's going on, because I thought this was going to be a Joe album, but hearing these song titles I was like, what do you mean? Like, is this about like Joe and how like she wants to marry him but he doesn't want to?
I can fix him, I really can't. It opens up, the smoke cloud billows out his mouth, which again harkens back to Cardigan. The smell of smoke would hang around this long, right after what we already talked about, I knew you'd haunt all of my what ifs.
Yeah.
So like one way that you can really tell, and going back in her past discography, is looking at celestial references, looking to references of smoke, because I think there's a line, I think Joe possibly might have like smoked like weed and like dabbled in it, so there could be, you know, some stuff there, but I think like the moon was high, like your friends on the night we first met, that's a Joe one, but if you, for the most part, if you look back and you see these, it kind of is clues as to what possibly could have been written about Maddie in the past.
Yeah.
And then we get a Maddie thing in a negative light, but it shows the jokes that he told across the bar were revolting and far too loud.
Yeah.
And then we go into, they shake their head saying, God help her, because everyone was just like, look at this dude, Taylor. And so she's even kind of like acknowledging kind of what the public is seeing here.
Oh, there's the 6.
Yeah, so then this goes the Texas lane. This is where she talks about Texas, which is another reference when she talked about it in Florida. Still don't fully know the link, but very interesting here. And I know I mentioned previously cowboy was something he talked about in the NME awards. He referenced being a cowboy in his NME speech, not to like tear the world down for so many cowboy like me fans who hate Maddie, but there's a very likely chance that song is inspired by him. And
it's crazy how many songs that her discography are about Maddie that we didn't realize they were until now.
His hands so calloused from his pistol. Softly traces hearts on my face. We're thinking cowboy, so pistol. Yeah. Also, really, why would a musician's hands be calloused? He's more so, his hands are calloused from his guitar being his pistol. And you know, she's kind of playing into, I can make the bad guys good for a weekend, I can tame the bad boys, I'm Taylor Swift, perfect case for my certain skill set, I can do it. Hot ass bridge that people don't talk about how insanely sexual this bridge is, where she is basically like, I don't even know the word for it, audio porn.
I know, for real.
She's like, good boy, and the way she sings this bridge is like, girlfriend.
And then to end with her saying like, well, maybe I can't. I think honestly it's perfect way to end that. I think I think if she didn't have that last lyric, it would make the song so different.
I think it's really funny, and it's interesting to like to play around within your head, like, was this song, like, was that line initially part of the song or was it added later?
So true.
Powering through them.
LOML.
Taylor's dancers posted, I believe yesterday, they posted something to the song and they put loss of my life. So it's like people are like, oh, is that confirming that that's actually what the LOML is?
Oh, interesting.
Instead of love of my life kind of thing.
So everyone was wondering what LOML meant, if it was love of my life or if it was loss of my life. I think it's very important that she put it as LOML and not the song title of like being love of my life, because obviously the song, that L changes from love of my life to lost of my life by the end of the song.
And that's classic Taylor.
Yeah.
Let's just start from the beginning. This is where I don't fully understand why people think it's about Joe. Who's gonna stop us from waltzing back into rekindle things? We embroidered the memories of the time I was away, stitching we were just kids, babe. That is such a Maddie line. You can hear Maddie say, we were just kids, babe.
Yeah.
And she talks about this a lot. In Chloe and Sam, too young to know what to do. They met at such a young age. They didn't know how to handle like the love that was it. I thought I was better safe than starry-eyed. She thought, instead of pursuing Maddie back then. Your suit and tie, we've already heard her talk about the Jehovah's Witness suit. We know that's kind of Maddie's style with his on stage presence. And so what's so interesting is she goes like, you told me I'm the love of your life. You said I'm the love of your life about 1,000,000 times. And she even kind of like sounds like she's rolling her eyes when she's like, about 1,000,000 times.
Yeah.
And this is her looking back being like, talking about the love bombing and being like, you said this, you kept freaking saying this,
and I freaking believed you.
And then she goes into, when your impressionist paintings of heavens turned out to be fakes, well, you took me to hell too. And all at once the ink bleeds. A con man sells the fool a get love quick scheme.
Such good lyrics.
Links to Cowboy Like Me in a way. Stephen Sully is the TikToker.
Yeah.
Forever's the Sweetest Con. The whole like background to Cowboy Like Me is two con men fall in love. And so possibly an LOML. You know, a con man, one of the con men in the Cowboy Like Me relationship is still a con man, and he's selling a get love quick scheme.
So
I have beef with Taylor Swift right now, because why? Why are you going to release Cowboy Like Me in 2020 and let me spend years of my life devoted to picking apart that song and building out in my mind the world of that song, the characters in this song, these two con artists falling in love, and let me come to the conclusion that this song has a happy ending, and that when you say I'm never gonna love again, you're saying it because I've found the only love I need. I never need to pretend to love for money again. Love stumbled into my lap in the most unexpected way. This is what it is. And let me think that, only to years later release a song called LOML where you say a con man sells a fool a get love quick scheme, because I'm sorry. I'm like, forgive me for taking like 2 weeks to process LOML, but this lyric right here, if that is not the main character of Cowboy Like Me, looking back on the Cowboy Like Me, Forever's the Sweetest Con, Never Gonna Love Again love affair, and realizing that it was nothing more than another one of the lovers get love quick schemes, years of... I'm mad. I'm really mad. Because of course they're not connected actually in any way, but I'm never gonna be able to unintertwine them in my mind now. All because she just had to write the word con again.
that song was about Matty too.
Yes, and that's why, and I kind of touched on why, you know, with the enemies and how she heard him speaking about Cowboy, and so how that if Cowboy Like Me is about Matty, it does directly link to a con man sells a fool get love quick scheme. And that even goes down into the end where she says, because something counterfeits dead, con, counterfeit, all these things.
So she's saying her love with Matty was counterfeit, it wasn't real.
Yeah, she thinks,
it's
and I think the song was written while still in a really angry and hurt place, and she may not feel necessarily exactly how she feels in the song anymore. Similar to Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, it was never quite buried what they had. Cinephile, you know,
Black and
this
white,
movie lover. Something that's so interesting is this line is very, I don't necessarily know how it falls into thing with this, you shit talked me under the table. What was he saying? Was he, while he was with her in this 2-month situation, was he shit talking her?
I think he was saying, I talking ring some kids, I want to be with you. She thought that was legit when she was with him, and then I think afterwards she's like, oh, but you weren't meaning that, you were just shit talking me. In her head she thinks that. I don't think he actually was shit talking her.
Dancing phantoms on the terrace, are they secondhand embarrassed? Like the phantoms of our love, are they embarrassed that I can't get out of bed because something counterfeits dead? And then, and when she sang this live,
that's how bad she was for him.
When she sang this live, it was awful. When she goes, it was unnecessary. Should have let it stay buried. We shouldn't have even dug this up from the grave. And that's where I feel like, obviously, in perspective, she probably is happy that it happened, in the sense of like, we were able,
now we know.
She was able to find that closure to get to Travis.
I think if she didn't explore this with him, she would still to this day be wondering it had to happen, so she could kind of like finally let that go, so they can move on and she could be with Travis.
And I mean, we hear, oh, what a valiant roar, what a bland goodbye. If he ghosted her and ran off, she's just making fun of him. Then this also gives us more of a clue to like, maybe something did go down a little bit more dirty than just ghosting. Combing through the braids of lies, our field of dreams engulfed in fire, your arson's match. He set the match to their field of dreams, but had somber eyes while doing it. He felt bad for himself. He felt bad that he was doing it.
That's like so annoying. It's so annoying. So then don't do it then. Like, but he's like this like again, back to the type of person that Matty is. She's like, I must do it.
Leave me safe and straight at thinking it's romantic and thinking it was what's best for her. So it's important to note, she never said that he's the love of her life. She only said he's the loss.
Yes, yeah.
She doesn't think she'll have a greater loss than him, which I hope is true.
Which is wild to think about. I think sometimes, like, shorter relationships could hurt almost more than those long because people hear this, you're like, she was in a relationship for 6 years. How is it that that loss isn't the loss of her life? Because the reason why that 6 relationship wasn't the loss of her life is because she tried every little avenue to make it work and it didn't work. So she knows that it's not supposed to work. Whereas I think shorter flings almost hurt more because it's like, you think about what could have been. I always would have like 3-month relationships. And I think like those hurt so fucking much because it's the what ifs of what could have been. It is that 10-year build up. So that's also why I think also it's such a loss
and like
of her life.
so much of her art was secretly dedicated to him.
Yeah. Everything, all of Folklore and Evermore are all lowercase letters. Love of my life.
I keep my longings locked in lowercase inside a vault.
Yeah. It shows it's more about Matty as well. I Can Do the Broken Heart. It's so meta. It's so fucking good. Such a bad
There's like not
song.
even much to break down about the song. I mean,
pretty obvious
it is what
about.
it is.
Yeah. She's it's obviously about the Eras tour. She's on stage performing, looking as happy as ever, but really she's dying inside over a breakup. About Matty
and Joe, both. I think both.
Yeah.
And what's so funny, as I was mentioning earlier, how like Taylor's a performer, you don't know what she's going through on stage, versus Matty puts his emotions out there on stage.
I also think the only times you know about whatever she's going through is with the surprise songs.
Oh well, yeah, and she lets you in on how much she wants you to know.
Yeah, and in the past she used to write on her arm what she was thinking, and during tour with other lyrics, it's always, of course, it's always on her terms what she wants to say. I remember hearing somewhere
the 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the in-ears.
Oh, yeah, the in-ears, but also the Tampa shows were the first time the show she performed after the news of the breakup. I don't know why I'm bringing that up though. Why am I bringing that up?
I'm very conflicted about that, because I think they were well broken up by then.
Yes.
And so it's like, yes, the Tampa shows were the first post.
But we knew about it, of course.
But really the breakup announcement. So obviously she was still feeling pretty raw, because I don't think it was supposed to be announced when it was announced. And so if anything, I feel like she was more angry around that time. I don't know. I go back and forth of like how sad, where was she mourning Joe but very excited to be with Matty at the same time?
Oh, yeah.
Because it meant she could be with Matty now that it was out in the open. So it's very like a little tricky of like what were her feelings at that time. There is a video of her like wiping her tears post Lover. I like to think that she was crying about Joe, because I was crying about my ex during Lover. So I love to think that we were both crying about our exes at the same time at the same show. But that's what I tell myself.
I love how at the end she's just so like, I don't give a fuck, and she's like trying again for my job, like so fucking funny.
I know, and it's awesome to see Taylor how far she's like matured in her music to where she can now feel the confidence to kind of come up with these jokey but slightly cocky lyrics and feel comfortable to just throw them out there, and not only throw them out there, put them on tour and perform these lyrics and the cocky parts of the lyrics. And so it's kind of cool to see her like as she's grown in her like confidence as a writer, what she can.
But I was thinking about Ariana Grande and how whenever she won like some big award, she went on stage and talked about how it was the best time, like, because it was at the height of her career during Thank You Next and everything, and how she said like, this may seem like the, you know, I might think I'm the height of my career, I might look to the public, I'm very successful, but on the inside this is also like the worst time in my life. It just parallels with Taylor Swift, how she's saying like, I'm in my glittery prime, but also I'm dying on the inside. Like it's so interesting how those two like kind of
can coincide.
Like,
and I think honestly her reaching out to Travis, I think could have very possibly started as a let me get my mind off things.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, what better way to get back at an ex is like than dating like this huge popular football player and becoming this like insanely talked about thing.
The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived is such a scathing song, and I love
possibly her most scathing to date.
Yes, I love the build in the song because of how like, you know, this song always, actually let me make sure.
Are we talking about the Black Parade?
Yes, this song every time I hear it,
That's one of my girlies.
I always have a second where I think it's gonna go into that Black Parade. Before we get to the lyrics, just this production is so fucking good. How much it builds. It builds so gradually that you almost don't even realize that you're at the big part of the song.
It's crazy. And to think that like she put all this together in such a short amount of time, like her and Jack, and like the talent behind able to like put out this like caliber of music in such a short amount of time just blows my mind. Like I can't. So these lyrics are insane.
Yeah.
We already start with gazing at me starry-eyed. She uses a lot of like cosmic stuff to describe his eyes. What's very interesting is the pills line, because Matty's known to be mostly sober. We don't know like the details. We know that he had heroin and cocaine addiction, and he did go to rehab for that. He actually did equine therapy with horses as part of his therapy. So we know he's clean of those.
Okay.
Pills though, we don't know, and it's very interesting for Taylor to bring it up as it's sensitive. Yeah. And then the way she says, from a friend of mine, they just ghosted you. Now you know what it feels like. So it makes it sound like post-breakup, he somehow reached out to a friend of hers to get some pills, which is just hard for me to really wrap my head around, and it's also really crazy for her to expose him that way.
I know.
And then we get the ghosted line, which is where we get
where we think
the
that
idea.
Yeah. That he ghosted her, yeah.
I love the rusting, sparkling summer line.
Was her goal.
Because it's like, oh, you know, she really was having a sparkling summer, and he really did rust that shit off. Like, the most scathing shit that I don't know why, like, it is just so awful. You didn't measure up in any measure of a man.
Inside and
Which
out.
is interesting though, because if she is saying he's a small dick, I don't think that's true. One of her best bridges of all time.
Truly, yeah, just so good.
And this is where she really reasons with herself of like,
so many questions.
All of this happened, and she's like, how could all of this culminate and you just leave me and it's over? So she's trying to like reason,
make sense of it in her head.
Did someone send you to do this to me? Like, was this some sick joke? Did I pledge a fraternity and this is the hazing of it? Like, she's just trying to make sense of like, how could you have done this?
It seemed like their love was had so much fire in it, and it just died out so quickly, and so when that happens, it makes you question a lot about, was everything a lie?
One of the craziest lines too, another one is the, it wasn't sexy once it wasn't forbidden.
Yes.
I'm like, do you mean that, girl? They finally were together and the sex was bad?
No, I personally think that's what she's thinking, that he's like, that's what she's trying to rationalize in her head. Like, oh, for you, was it not sexy because it wasn't presented, and that's why we ended things? Like, that's what I thought.
That's an interesting way to think about it. One thing I love, too, is the, I would have died for your sins. Like, she's saying, I would have all the things that he did that people were talking shit about and, like, trying to say she shouldn't be with him for. She's like, I would have, like, dealt with that.
She loves very hard. And when she loves someone, she's like, I would have been down for you. I was by your side. I would have died for your sins, but instead I just died inside. Like,
yeah, I would have taken that reputation hit. This is the line that makes me think more went down than just ghosting.
Yeah.
You deserve prison, but you won't get time. You don't say that about somebody who just ghosted you.
Yeah, and then you'll slide into inboxes, slip through bars. This makes you think about maybe he was in other people's DMs.
Yeah, I mean, I think Matty is known to have, you know, he hooks up with a lot of Instagram models. He's
crashed my party for rental cars.
Insert photo, rental car. When he was in LA post breakup, he got into a little fender bender with his rental car. What I love about the outro, in plain sight you hid.
I know.
I feel as if he was on tour actively after all this. So it's like he was there in plain sight. He was ghosting her and ignoring her and going through all this, but you could see him on stage every single day.
Yeah.
So I think that's really interesting. You are what you did. I'll forget you, but I'll never forgive. Something else went down. You don't write the most scathing lyrics of all times of a man that just ghosted you.
Yeah, and Taylor talks about in the past how, like, you don't have to forgive and you don't have to forget to move on. You can do both those things without any of those things happening. That just makes me think of this lyric.
So I was talking about how it seemed like there was something possibly else that went on around the time. So there was still possibility, I thought, for a while, that maybe Matty and Taylor didn't break up and they were just on the down low. What really set it off for me, and what's interesting about this, if it was August, then it's very interesting. And this article's written in August, so it must have happened around August. So that's interesting because that's kind of when she started like thinking maybe I should reach out to Travis. He called up his ex-fling, Meredith Mickelson. He calls up Meredith, hey, come with me and my band on our holiday to Hawaii. Just come with me and my band on this intimate holiday.
After splitting with Taylor Swift.
In August. So 2 months. Within 2 months.
Yeah, you're right.
And so that's really what the nail in the coffin for me was like, okay, they are not hiding it. They actually are broken up. There's a photo of him and her at the airport. He picked her up at the airport. There's a photo. She's very like crossed arm, like kind of pissed off. And he's kind of like explaining. And it was sad that the person who took the photo said he heard her saying, she heard him saying like, the fucking Swifties ruined everything or something. Don't know if that's true. Jake Gyllenhaal and John Mayer were paid dust. This is like worse.
She's angry. So we're gonna not do the full 31 songs today, like I said earlier, because this song video is gonna be way too long. We'll do a part 2 in the near future. But I'm gonna finish with the last 2 songs and then we'll end this video here. So let's go on to song 15, The Alchemy, which is a Travis song. I don't like this song that much.
There's a big debate about if this song was originally written for Matty and then...
Oh, interesting.
I don't agree because too many football references are made.
Yeah.
I think what's really funny, people think this is like her like well-written version of like Travie Baby.
Oh yeah, yeah. The
so I kind of like it. This song TikTok grew on me. I didn't like it at first. I do like it.
I think the only reason why I would like this song is if you check out the heroin line. I think because of
the
that.
The heroin line is so weird, and I don't even like talking about it because I just don't get it, and it like
it just puts a weird vibe in my.
It does 100%. I don't like it,
and so that's the reason why.
Because why, if it doesn't have anything, well, if it doesn't have anything to do about Matty, why put it in an album that has everything to do about Matty? People say you do drugs for sports, but it's not. He's just doing good because he's with her.
Oh,
that could be it. But why bring up heroin at all?
Yes, it's a cute song about, you know, Travis and all their
little moments.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's cute her putting in the football references. I think it's very cheeky. Something that I like get a little frustrated about is people are like, oh, the songs she's written for Travis are just so like surface level, or they're not that deep, and she's written better songs. I'm like, give her a fucking minute.
Yeah.
Like, wait till TS12 comes out. These are just 2, and these songs had to be written before the cutoff date to her to get this to print and all this. Like, these were all written very early on in the relationship. And
they also haven't been in a relationship for even a year yet.
Yeah.
So I think obviously these songs are more like surface level because they're more in a surface level relationship.
Yeah, like give her a minute, guys.
When she says honestly who we to fight the alchemy being like their relationship basically.
The chemistry.
The chemistry, yeah. Who are we to fight like this relationship thing?
Which is where the argument could come in about, was this idea of the song initially made for Matty? Who are we to fight the chemistry of this? She didn't necessarily go into the Travis thing thinking it was going to be an endgame situation, and she didn't necessarily want it to be because I think she was still healing from Matty at the time, and so I think she probably did try to fight it a little bit in the beginning because she's like, oh, whoa, this is scary, like I just came out of like the biggest heartbreak of my life. So I love these blokes warm the benches. All these British dudes I've been dating have just been warming the benches.
It's so true.
Such
That's so funny. It's so true.
Yeah,
this happens only once every few lifetimes. Is cool. Like, it's such a cute, like, what a cute way to say like this is like a once in a lifetime kind of love. Like, that's so cute.
Not even once in a lifetime.
Like
every few, which is even more powerful.
Yeah. Last song on the first original album. I think of the anthology as one album, but
me too.
Technically, the last song on the first album technically is Clara Bow, song 16, and this song's cute.
It does start with the "You Look Like Clara Bow" is people telling Stevie Nicks. So just, it's a pastor like. People say that Taylor reminds her of Stevie Nicks. People told Stevie Nicks that they remind her of Clara Bow.
Oh, okay.
And so it's kind of a backwards there. So they're saying like, Stevie, you look like Clara Bow. And when Stevie first came into this scene, then we get into verse 2, they say you look like Stevie Nicks. So now they're speaking to Taylor.
And that whenever she first cut her bangs, that Vogue shoot with the way the style was. It did look like Stevie Nicks. Like, that was so Stevie Nicks.
And her folklore costumes are really Stevie Nicks.
I think also in her time there was a lot of talk about how she dated, you know, did she date her like person in the band or something?
There was some stuff about that. There was some stuff.
So I can see the comparison about their media and like their relationships in the media and things like that between Stevie Nicks and Taylor Swift.
One line that I still haven't fully figured out as well that I'm interested to see people's opinions is the half moonshine full eclipse. No idea what that means.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Stevie Nicks gives a necklace to certain, I heard this somewhere, this is not my own thoughts, I heard this somewhere, I don't remember where I heard it from, probably somewhere on TikTok, that Stevie Nicks gives a necklace that's a half moon to certain very special people in her life, and Stevie Nicks gave one to Taylor Swift. Stevie Nicks also wrote that opening poem in the vinyl.
And Stevie, I think, is a huge, she's a big 1975 fan, so she does
Oh,
know
really?
That.
So I feel like maybe it could be like some sort of reference there.
Fact.
Stevie Nicks always wears a crescent moon necklace. She gives replicas of this to her trusted inner circle. In each necklace, Nicks bestows some of her magic upon the wearer. Oh. A bit of gold dust, if you will. They deserve to have a moon, she says. They deserve to have the inspiration, and that little tip of my top hat to them to say I believe in you and I think you're doing amazing. That's really cute. So she gave that to Taylor, and so I'm telling you right now, you can have it all if you want it.
I still don't
say that, but
understand it as a whole, but
yeah, neither do I.
You know, just the town talking to her. This is very kind of talking about like songs she sang in the past about other you know, people who have made it famous, like Lucky One and Red. More things with that, talking about, you know, the people in the past, even so much as like Last Great American Dynasty, talking about the woman in that story. So it's this little bit more of like her storytelling kind of songs of like. So interesting is this bridge though. I think it's beautiful. Me not growing up as this highly sought after beautiful girl that gets a lot of like people call like catcalls and shit, so I don't know, I can't really. But beauty is a beast that roars down on all fours demanding more. Only when your girlish glow flickers just so do they let you know it's hell on earth to be heavenly. So I think her talking about this is like how women are so sexualized in the media, and how important it is for women to be beautiful for as long as possible, in order to have their art respected.
Yeah, that's
more
what's
so
the most important thing, whereas men as they get older are praised because of how hot they are, because they're gray hair, whereas women are not so much, I guess.
So interesting is this line that I'm actually literally clicking because I never looked it up and I meant to. The them's the breaks, they don't come gently. So Genius says them's the breaks, they don't come gently is an idiom that means that's just the way things are and they aren't easy, which suggests that the difficulties and setbacks associated with beauty standards are simply part of life. It's interesting. I'd never heard of them's the breaks, they don't come gently. Sounds like something they would say in like old London, like them's the breaks. They don't come gently. Like, that was like country. And then we get to the beautiful outro.
Her mentioning herself in her own song is such a fucking badass bitch thing to do. Like, that's when you know you fucking made it.
But I do think the use of You've Got Edge is very interesting because I've always thought the way Olivia was able to distinguish herself from Taylor because she was getting so much is the way she took this like little edgy turn. Taylor could have never gotten away with all the stuff
when
that
she was in Disney.
And like the whole Guts or Sour tour is very edgy, and that's like how she kind of was able to like turn her image away from being the like Taylor Swift.
I think this is also relate to Sabrina because they do look alike, if you want to say they look alike, because of the blonde hair and like.
She does have edge because she's got the sex appeal.
Yeah, exactly. Sabrina also came from Disney, obviously so did Olivia.
The way, though, her specifically saying You've Got Edge is a really, so many, you know, pop artists are able to, they do have that edge that Taylor didn't have.
Yes, and that they are allowed to have now, whereas whenever she was growing up as a stardom, it was so, again, it was so important for people to have good role model. Being such a good role model for kids, that's such a big thing for young female artists, to be a good role model, and Taylor definitely fell into that, and she was like this country pumpkin and was so freaking sweet, and she never had edge because she wasn't allowed to, really. I mean, I also think she just naturally didn't have edge naturally.
Yeah, I don't think it was her natural inclination. But
the future is bright, dazzling. I love that last ending because it's like, on to the next, you're the next Taylor Swift, who's gonna come after that?
So many of Taylor's songs, even like Nothing New, is talking about like who's gonna be the one after me, but
she always
so
had
far
that.
there's not been one after me. Like, you were still relevant, you were still you, and like not these Olivias and Sabrina's, like, they're not ever going to be you. They're going to be their own thing.
And really, nothing's really original in music, and people are always getting inspiration from other people. I think it's really cool for a song Taylor Swift would get inspiration from other artists. Now other people are getting inspiration from Taylor Swift, which shows how long she's been in the industry and how she's able to stay relevant and how she's really changed the industry, especially with her eras, which were never a thing before.
Taylor, I think, made them more of a thing. Like, I think others maybe had eras and they weren't on purpose, whereas I think Taylor, like, made eras on purpose. She, like, constantly was reinventing herself on purpose and tried to make them very, like, different.
Yes, whereas I think a lot of artists would get, like, shit on if if things sounded differently. I remember, like, Fall Out Boy, this is so random, but, like, whenever
when they change sound?
Yeah, when they change sounds, there's like, you're changing, and it's like, well, I can't see the same, but Taylor Swift was always kind of praised, I guess, for that now.
But honestly, though, this album, I think, has multiple genres spanning in this album. This album has a lot of different vibes of lots of different genres, and it has, like, the little country western feeling. It's definitely got the more, like, ethereal vibey. It's got the rock with the guitars, the So High School feeling. It just goes across a ton. That guitar is so good in So High School. You know what that guitar reminds me of? I don't know if have you heard of Ethel Cain? Have you listened to Ethel Cain before? I've heard of her, but I'm not listening.
There is a song that's, I think it's called, like, something High School. Every time I hear that guitar in So High School, it reminds me of a song by Ethel Cain, American Teenager.
I think this album truly is, and if you look at it as a big picture from the 31 tracks back, it's just, like, such an insane, like, it's such a work of art, and it's crazy how curated it is and how well done it is in such a short amount of time. I know she said she's been working on this 2 years, but obviously the bulk of the first half is clearly during and post Matty, so we know that's more. I think some of these anthology tracks possibly were some of the earlier ones. I think they could have been maybe some rejects from the Folklore Evermore era, like things she had been working with Aaron. Not necessarily rejects, but I think they might have came off of the
timeline
of her working with Aaron, because a lot of the anthology is Aaron. So I think some of these songs, like the Bolter, possibly, even like Cassandra.
It's interesting you say that, because I think a lot of people don't like this album because it sounds super, like, people are saying their criticism is that all the songs sound the same.
Because they're stupid and they don't actually listen to it.
I could see that criticism, because I do sometimes get them mixed up, because I'm like, they do sound a little bit the same. But honestly, they do have a lot of it does have a lot of different genres in there. I think things are gonna sound the same whenever you're working with.
Well, it's supposed to be cohesive.
Yes.
You want an album to sound cohesive.
Especially when she works with Jack and she works with Aaron so much, it's like you're gonna get a lot of the, like, those people are
Sorry. I'll say something about people saying she needs to stop working with Jack. This album is insanely personal.
Yeah.
Who else is she going to work with but the two people she trusts the most?
Yeah.
I think if you really delve into this album, it's got a cohesive sound, but it goes from, like, the Bolter being kind of like folky, So High School being like early 2000s pop rock. We've got the, like, westerny of Fresh Out the Slammer and I Can Fix Them, No Really I Can't. We have the poppiness, glitter sparkle gel pen of I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. We've got the vibey, almost 1975 feel of Fortnight, and it's insanely different if you really, really get in and break it down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah. And I think also Taylor Swift has learned from Red. I think that so much so that she wants to, it's very important to her to make a sonically cohesive album because of Red and how disappointed she was that it didn't win that Grammy. And making sonically cohesive albums is, like, is important to her more than ever.
Yeah. She just cut a few songs off Red, aka I Knew You Were Trouble, We're Never Getting Back Together. If she just cut those awful singles, the whole album is actually perfect. Yeah. Torture Poets Department actually dethroned Red being my #1.
Really?
It was. Red has been my #1 since the beginning of time. Torture Poets, I think, dethroned it. Controversial. My top 3 is TTPD, Red, and Evermore.
Wow.
And who got bumped out of my top 3? Lover.
We're gonna end this video here. This video is probably so fucking long. But thank you guys so much for watching and sticking with us to this very last part. If you are still here, appreciate it. We're gonna get to part 2 or 17 through 31, another video soon. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Sorry I'm such a yapper.
No, it's great because I'm a yapper too. I'm gonna leave her it's okay to leave your Instagram in the description
Sure, I
below.
don't really do it very much, update it very much.
Yeah,
but
I'll keep it down below. And please give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Please give a thumbs up for Jordan. She's the best. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, and don't come for us if your opinions are different.
Yes, yes, please don't do that. But I love you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next video.
Guys.
Bye.